Hey everyone, Chris here, and I wanted to offer my thoughts on the second episode of Picard Maps and Legends. So right out of the gate, I'll just say that I don't think this is as strong as the opening episode, Remembrance, mainly because there's a lot of exposition, right? So if I had to sort of summarize this episode in 2 words, it would be exposition dump. So you get a lot of that really early on, and in fact, I thought that the first 10 to 15 minutes of this episode was maybe a little too dense. It was kind of difficult to try and actually make sense, at least initially, of everything that was going on and what it was that was happening in terms of the Borg cube that we saw at the end of the first episode, and how that had been reclaimed, and now there's sort of this, I guess to use that term again, reclamation project happening that involves Romulans and trying to bring back Borg, that the people or the species that were assimilated, and make them part of society again. So there was a little bit of weirdness at the beginning of this, but as the episode progresses, it does get better, especially when Picard realizes that he's going to have to do some research and some digging to figure out how all of this ties into Data and his background, and Daj's twin sister. And so he revisits Starfleet, going back, after the sort of explosive interview he had that I think everyone in Starfleet wishes he didn't have, where he criticized them for the way they handled this tragedy that happened on Mars. And so he's denied the support that he was hoping he would find there, in trying to track down this twin and figure out what all this means for artificial or synthetic intelligences, and why they're being hunted down and treated the way they're being treated. And again, it was a little bit murky for some reason to me, and I don't know if I just wasn't paying as close attention as I should have been, but I just had some trouble, at least initially, kind of sifting through all the plot details. But it did get a little bit more clear and a little bit better as time went on. And it was, kind of cool to see Picard return to Starfleet and put on a visitor badge, and to see that one of the younger employees had no idea who he was, even though it seemed like most of the world sort of recognized him as being one of the greatest captains of all time. So there was some interesting interactions there, and I think, through the use of music, they also generated a good bit of nostalgia. But I will say, much to my surprise, this was the first time that I've ever heard anyone in any kind of Star Trek setting drop an F-bomb. I mean, there was an F-bomb in a Star Trek TV show. Oh, shit. Granted, it was on CBS All Access, so you have to pay for it, and therefore they can probably get away with a little bit more than they would otherwise be able to do. But that was a little bit jarring, and I think if I would have been drinking something when that happened, I probably would have spewed it out of my mouth, because I was so shocked that I actually heard what I heard with that. But anyway, I digress. So as this episode progresses, we learn a little bit about Picard and his health, and apparently there's been this lingering health issue, which I'm not sure if this is referenced in The Next Generation or any of the movies tied to that. But we do get some background about some sort of issue he has in his parietal lobe, I think. They talk about some sort of brain issue, and I'm not sure if it's a tumor. I don't think that it is, because it sounds like it's been kind of a long-standing thing. But he's looking for medical clearance from an old friend so that he can travel in space, going back into interstellar travel, so that he can try and figure out what happened to this twin of Daj. And so you get a little bit of that background, and they kind of build toward the inevitability of Picard going back into space and sort of taking up his old habits as a Starfleet leader in some capacity, even though this would be without Starfleet's blessing, it would seem. So in my estimation, this was a good episode. I wouldn't say it was great. It kind of worked in fits. I would say there was a lot of ebb and flow with it. So if I had to score it, I would say that it's a 7 out of 10. I am looking forward to where they're going to take this story in the future, and that's kind of the biggest thing that you can say, I think, about a show like this is, does the narrative, does the plot keep me interested? Do I want to see what happens? And of course the answer is yes, because I love Picard as a character. I love Star Trek. I want to see what's going to happen. Again, I'll go with a 7 out of 10. I am looking forward to Thursday next week to see what the next episode brings. But if you've seen this one, let me know your thoughts, and we'll have a discussion about it. Thanks.